close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, all fears, all laziness, all doubt. Anything within the center of your mind, within your 12 cranial nerves, within your hands and your feet that control the rest of your body, within your axons and your dendrites, within your inner being, within your inner sentient self, within your thought process and your makashba, your yetzer, and your imaginations, and the way you process information within yourself. And bring your mind to balance within your inward man, within your inner being, within your inner thoughts and your inner mind. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day of warning. Today is a day that Yahuwah has given to us as another day that we may walk in newness of life, that we may know the truth, and the truth can make us free. Give us more enlightenment to ourselves, enlightenment to what's ahead, and to look not only at the past, but also to look at the future. But today we acknowledge the one who made all of the heart of the earth, all the mountains and streams, all the gold and silver and the tin of the earth, the one who gives us life and gives the copper to inside of the earth, and all the rocks and all the sardonyx and the topaz and all the jewels that men hold within their hand. Yahuwah Elohim, the one who is the maker of the rich and the poor, the one who's maker of shalom, the one who is the maker of the evil in your life, the one who gives and hardens hearts, the one who makes a heart wax cold, and the one who gives life and understanding to our inner being, that we may be enlightened within ourselves continually. Yahuwah Elohim. So this Yom, as we move forward in kindness, ahab, joy, peace, patience, meekness, temperance, samuna. We move forward in kindness. We move forward in love, which binds everything in perfect harmony, in harmon, as a multitude. But we will no wise within ourselves judge ourselves improperly, and judge ourselves and be injustice and flatter ourselves. For that is righteousness within our life and in our heart and our mind. So as we move forward, we focus our thoughts and attention on the one who sits in the highest shamayim, above all gods, above all beings, and all in the rakia, above the shamayim, above the 7 heavens, above the 13th shamayim, with this Ben Yahusha who governs all the beings in the rakia, all the gods and the goddesses in the rakia and the firmament, and all the beings on the surface of the earth and the center of the earth, in the center of the earth, the central sun, and all the beings in the center of the earth, even down to Sheol. Yahuwah Elohim. Right, so this is as we left off at this 2 Samuel Shani Shemuel 2:12 through 28. As we were speaking about before, we were speaking about rivalries and dissension and strife and boasting and quarreling and fighting. Right, all these are a part of a lot of things within ourselves, within our inner being, in our life, in our inner being, in our households, in our house, within ourselves, in our body, that have taken hold. It can cause a lot of damage and bring other people, by the things we utter out of our voice and our mouth, into our world that we created, because we uttered something to Yahuwah. And when you utter something to Yahuwah as an ish, you must comply, just like any other thing, especially if he complies and gives you everything that you desire. Right, so this is 2 Samuel Shani Shemuel 2:12 through 28. This is where we left off before. It says that Abner, the son of Ner, and the servants of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, went out to Mahanaim to Gibeon. And Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and the servant of Daud went out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. So at the pool. We ain't talking about a pool in your backyard. We're talking about a pool of water. And they sat down, one on one side of the pool and the other on the other side. So we got one person on one side and one person on the other. Just like Yahusha, we were between two thieves. He had the one on one side and one on the other. And he had the pool in the middle. And what's in the pool? And it says they sat down, one on one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. And Abner said to Joab, "Let the young men arise and compete before us." Which, when you start saying compete, right, it can lead to some things. And just like any other thing competition can do, it can lead to some things that may not be righteous, right? And Joab said, "Let them arise." He said, "Let them go up, let them arise." It says, and they arose and passed over by number 12 for Benjamin and Ishbosheth. So you had 12 for Benjamin and Ishbosheth. the son of Shaul, right? So you had son of Saul, you got Benjamin, the son of Saul. So you know how Saul, in his inward man against David, he had a rivalry with David the whole time. Once he found out who David was, he was going after him. And guess what he said? And 12 for the servants of David. So they had 12 on one side, right? And 12 on the other side. And each, verse 16, and each caught his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side. And they fell down together. Therefore the place was called Aydahchay Harazim. Right, so you look at them competing against each other, 12 on one side, 12 on the other, and they all got in the middle. And guess what? They passed over by number 12 and 12, and then they jumped in and they started competing and fighting with each other. Right, so you look at even sports. They'll have 11 people on the field, but if you bring a 12th man on the field, guess what happens? It's a penalty, because you ain't supposed to have 12 in the game at one time. So you look at 12 and 12 being in the game at one time, but it's a penalty if you have 12 in the game. But they say it's 11-11. So we talked about 11-11, 182 thrones. 182 thrones equals to what? 22 letters in the alphabet. But then also you look at 12 men on the field, it's a penalty. It's all a part of it, right? It says, and each caught, verse 16, each caught his opponent by the head and thrust his sword in his opponent's side, so they fell down together. Therefore the place was called Aydahchay Harazim, which is at Gibeon. And the battle was fierce that day. So that's what happens when you start competing. He said the battle was fierce. And these are all the same brothers. This is all the same family competing against each other. And Abner and the men of Ashr'y were beaten. So Abner and the men of Ashr'y were beaten before the servants of David. They said they were beaten before the servants of David. So that means they won. That's what they think. And Abner and the men of Ashr'y were beaten before the servants of David. David won. The servants of David won. But guess what? It was a fierce battle too. And let's see what happened after all that happened, all that competition, all that competing. And the three sons of Zeruiah were there, Joab, Abishai, Aziel, and Aziel was a swift of foot as a wild gazelle. He was fast. Isn't that what they do in sports? He said, you fast, but guess what happens? You run a 40 and a 4.3, 4.4, 4.2. And amazingly, all these things are encompassed in sports today. He was fast, swift, like a wild gazelle. And Aziel pursued Abner. And as he went, he turned neither to the right or the left from following Abner. And he ran him down. He was fast as you know what. Now, this is after the competition. And then guess what happened? Everybody started fighting, still fighting after they won. They already done won. Why are you still competing? But guess what happens? When you start competing, it creates. When you start having rivalries, it creates other things that should not be in the body of Yahushua Mashiach. Verse 20, then Abner looked behind him and said, it is Ashr'y. And he answered, it is I. And Abner said to him, he said, he turned aside to your right or your left and seize one of the young men and take his spoil. What you trying to take mine? You run after me. We just competed. David's servants won. And guess what happened? Now you pursuing me, trying to rob me. Isn't that what people do today? You win. This is what people do in certain neighborhoods. You win something, and then guess what happened? The person is bitter, and guess what? They start coming after you to try to get it back by sinister means. And guess what? It's all because you had a competition, and you start competing, and you lost. And guess what? Even the battle was sore, and people fell down together, and they was sticking their sword in their side. And verse 20 says, then Abner looked behind him and said, it is Ashr'y. And he answered, it is I. And Abner said, turn aside to your right hand and to your left and seize one of the young men and take his spoil. But Ashr'y would not turn aside from following him. He kept talking. He's like, man, stop following me. Turn aside. Go to the left and the right and go get somebody else. How then, he says, follow him. And Abner said again to Ashr'y, turn aside from following me. He said, they won't stop following me. He keep pursuing me. I already told him I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want nothing to do with what you're doing. But yet, because you competing against me and you want to follow me and chase me down, David's service already won, and you chasing me down, and guess what? And now you're trying to stop me from getting to my destination. And guess what it says? But Aydah would not turn aside from following him. And Abner said to Aydah, turn aside from following me. Why should I strike you to the ground? And then guess what happened? Now you done escalated. And now it's going to turn to a whole nother level. All because you keep following and chasing somebody down. He says, how then could I lift up my face to my brother Joab if I strike you down? But he refused to turn aside. He said, even after I threatened his life, he said he still will not stop. Therefore Abner struck him in the stomach with the butt of his spear, so that the spear came out at his back. He put it right through his body, his own brother. And guess what? And he fell there and died where he was. That's what happens when you start competing. People start dying. That's what happened to Cain and Abel. People start dying. Right? When you start competing, when Abraham was offered, he almost died. But at the same thing, somebody has to die when people start competing. When Jephthah went to go say they wanted him to come, they wanted him to fight because he was a mighty warrior. But he said, I will have to be your head if I bring him into your hand. And he made a vow to Yahuwah. Somebody gonna have to die. And Yahuwah gave them people in his hand, but somebody has to be given in exchange. Guess what it says? He died where he was, and all who came to the place where Ashr'y had fallen died, stood still. And once he died, where he was, everybody stood still. Why do you think when Yahushua was on the cross, everybody sat down and watched him there? In Matthew 27, they sat down and watched him. But he said he took the butt of the spear so that the spear came out his back. He said the whole thing stood still. So if you look at 12 plus 12, because they had 12 on one side, 12 on the other, which was a penalty in sports today. But it says right here, 12 plus 12 is what? 24, which equals to 6. 24 would equal to 6. It says, verse 13 says, and Joab and Jeruah and the servants of David went out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. And they sat down, one on the one side of the pool and the other on the other side of the pool. The word for pool is breka. It's a pond, a reservoir. It says a pool, fish pools. So it's like water, but it's not. It's like not deep, but it's like a pond. And he said, let them all fight against each other. Let them all compete. Right? And after that competition, somebody ended up dying. Right? It says, verse 14 says, and Abner said to Joab, let the young men, that word for young men is na'ar. It means servants. How do you say? Servants. Servants. Youth. Of course, youth. Servants. Young men. That's why he said, let the young men compete. You know what they do today? That's what they do today. Attendants. Young boys, young people. And they say, let them compete. Why? Because even when it says iron sharpen iron, but these men were literally fighting. And somebody ended up dying. Right, so it's right here. 14 says, and Abner said to Joab, let the young men arise and compete before us. The word for compete is sakak. Shakak. It means to laugh. Let them compete. Let them laugh, mock. Let them to sport. Isn't that what they do in sports? They compete. Singing. You know what people do today? Singing. I can sing better than you. I can sing. They start competing. They have competitions where people start singing and competing against each other. All it's going to do is make people jealous and envious. Make people want to take what you got. Make people pursue you. Make them take you down. That's all it's going to do. It's celebrate. That's what it says here. But it also means that. But they were competing. Right? They have competition songs here. Where they have competition where people sing. Let them compete. Sports, right? Let them be sport. Right, so this continue on, verse 24. But Joab and Abishai pursued Abner. Right, that's what happens. You kill somebody, you take somebody out, then other people start coming. They start running after him. And as the sun was going down, they came to the hill of Ammah. They came to the hill which lies before Giah, on the way to the wilderness of Gibeon. And the people of Benjamin gathered themselves together behind Abner and became one group. They all became one behind Abner. The people started pursuing him. Joab and Abishai started pursuing Abner. The people got one group behind him. Everybody was behind him, trying to take him out. And get what? And they took their stand on the top of the hill. Everybody was coming after him after he slew them. He said, "Stop following me." Then Abner called Joab. "Shall the sword devour forever?" He's like, "Man, y'all gonna keep doing this forever?" Abner like, "Shall the sword devour forever? So we gonna keep fighting? So we gonna keep competing against each other? Do you not know that the end will be bitter? Do you understand that this thing ain't gonna be good for us? It's gonna be bitter for us if we continue to do this. It's gonna be bitter for us if we continue to keep doing this. How long will it be before you tell your people to turn from the pursuit of their brothers? When you gonna stop telling this person to keep following me around and pursuing me? When are you gonna tell the other tribes and the other people and other men to stop pursuing me?" And Joab said, "As Yahuwah lives, if you had not spoken, surely the men would have given up the pursuit of their brothers until the morning." He said, "Man, it would have been stopped had you not spoken." So Joab blew the shofar. He said, and he had to talk him out of it. He's like, "When y'all gonna stop? All right, the other person already died. The people don't compete. Everybody, it's gonna end bitter for us. See, you gotta have a reason." He said, "Let us reason together." He just reasoned right there. He just stopped the whole thing from escalating. Even after he done slew somebody, he's like, "Man, y'all want to keep this going?" And Joab said, "As Yahuwah lives, if you have not spoken, surely the men would have not given up the pursuit of their brothers until the morning." That's all people got to do. You just got to say something. You got to talk. You got to talk face to face. One person on one side of the mountain, and the other person on the other hill, and they talking. He's like, "This not going to allow us to inherit the kingdom." That's all you got to say. He's like, "This ain't going to be good for us. It's going to end bitter for us after this life is over if we keep doing this." So Joab blew the shofar, and all the men stopped and pursued Yasharal no more. He's like, they stopped. For they did not fight, nor did they fight anymore. Just because the person just say, this is going to end bitter for us. This is not going to be good for us if we keep doing this over and over again. Right? Let's keep going. Right, so that word for Abner said in verse 26, then Abner called to Joab, "Shall the sword devour forever?" That word for sword is a call. Right, he said, "Shall it devour?" That word for is a call. It means to eat, to devour, to burn up, to pestilence, drought, to eat, figuratively, to burn up, consume. It means, he said, "Shall the sword consume, the pestilence consume?" People saying, "What do you mean swords, pestilence, and earthquakes in diverse places?" He said, this is not going to be good for us if we keep doing this. It's going to be bitter for us. We're not going to be protected in famine, as we spoke about before. We're not going to be protected from the hour of temptation if you keep doing it. We ain't going to escape it. To eat, to burn up, a call, right? And it says right here, then Abner called to Joab, "Shall the sword devour forever?" He said, "The end will be bitter." That word for bitter is mar. Bitterness of water or food. We ain't going to be protected in famine. The water going to be poisoned. The food ain't going to be good. He said, we ain't going to be protected. Bitterness. It's going to end bitter for us. It's going to end bitter for us. it's not going to be good for us. This is 2 Samuel, Shani, 2, 1 through 8. Right, so you see all that, how that came about. But let's go back to verse 1 and see how it got there. After this, Dawood inquired of Yahuwah. Dawood inquired of Yahuwah, shall I go up into any cities of Yehuda? And Yahuwah said, go up. And Dawood said, to which shall I go up? And he said, to Hebron. So Dawood went up there, and his two wives, also Ahinoam and of Yezreel, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal. And Dawood brought up his men who were with him, every one with his household. He's like, I brought up everybody. You know what he said? And they lived in the towns of Hebron. And the men of Yehuda came, and they were anointed Dawood king over Yashu's house of Yehuda. And when they told Dawood, it was the men of Jabesh Gilead who buried Saul, right? Dawood sent messages to the men of Jabesh Gilead and said to them, May you be barak by Yahuwah, because you showed loyalty to Saul, your master, and buried him. He's like, Yahuwah barak you. Right? You're not Yahuwah curse you. And get what he said. Now may Yahuwah steadfast love and faithfulness. Now Yahuwah show steadfast love and faithfulness to you. And I will do good to you because you have done these things. Do unto others, you have them do unto you. Because any man who returns evil for good, evil shall not depart of his house. He said, I'm going to do good to you as you done these things. Because if you return evil because people did that, guess what happened? Evil ain't going to depart of your house. Now therefore let your hands be strong and be valiant, for Saul, your master, is dead. Saul, your master, is dead. And he says, and the house of Yehuda has anointed me Malak over them. He's like, Yehuda put me Malak over them. But guess what happened? Verse 8. But Abner, the son of Ner, commander of Saul's army. He said, how this got to this point? But Abner, the son of Ner, commander of Saul's army, took Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim. And he made him king over Gilead and the Ashrites and Jezreel and Ephraim and Benjamin and all Yasharal. He said, oh. And people say, why Yahuwah say he was despised and rejected by men? A man acquainted with grief, a man of sorrow. It says, verse 10 says, Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Yasharal. Oh, he was 40. He was 40 years old. And he reigned 2 years. He only reigned 2 years. But the house of Yehuda followed Dawood. And he says, and the time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Yehuda was 7 years. Was 7 years and 6 months. 7 years and 6 months. Right? 7 years and 6 months. Right? So you look at 364 days in a year. 364 days, because he was over him for 7 years. Times 7 is 2,548 days. Then he said he was over for what? 7 years and what? 6 months. 6 months is 182 thrones. Right? In a solar calendar. So 182 days plus 2,548 is 2,730. Which equals to 12. Which equals to 12. He said, why is that important? It's very important. It's just like everything else is important. There's 12 months in a year. Right? The same way. It's very important. But the servants of David, Dawood won the battle against Yasharal. You know, Abner, who only ruled, Ishbosheth, who only ruled for 2 years. Dawood and them, they won. The servants, they won. We won the battle. But then after that, Abner started killing people. He said, what are you pursuing me for? Turn to the right and the left and take their spoil. He said, stop following me. And guess what happened? While they were competing, he slew somebody. Then Abner like, how long are we going to keep this up? this is going to end up bitter for us. How long are we going to keep doing this? How long are we going to keep fighting? Right, this is Yeshayahu chapter 14, 12 through 7. How art thou fallen from Shamayim, O day star? O Haliel, son of the dawn? How are you cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low? You said in your heart, I will ascend. Notice I put I. I will ascend to Shamayim, above the stars, the Kukah of the Yahuwah. I will sit. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of the assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend upon the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Isn't that what they say? He said, I will do it. I'm going to make myself like the Most High. I'm going to be just like them. I'm going to be over the stars in the size of the north. Right? Verse 15 says, but you are brought down to Sheol, to the far reaches of the pit. He said, I'm going to bring you down to the far reaches of the pit. Those who see you will stare at you and ponder over you. Is this the man who made the earth to tremble? Is this the man we spoke about before when they saw about Yahushua when he cried out and the earth shook? He said, you're going to be visited by Yahuwah with earthquakes, storm and tempest. Who shook kingdoms? He said, who shook the kingdoms? Yahushua shook Jerusalem. He shook and broke that place down. Who made the world like a desert and overthrew its cities? Who did not let the prisoner go home? All this is all part of it. But this is a part of an oppressor. It's a certain type of person who did this. Right? This is, he said, how art thou fallen, O day star? That's Haliel. Haliel. Right? Morning star. Right? We talked about before, king of Babylon, Lucifer, light bearer. Now we put Lucifer in here, but it's really the light bearer, the shining one, Satan. How you say because he worshipped the sun. He worshipped the sun. He said, bright and what? Morning star. They worship the sun. The shining one. They worship the sun. When you start worshiping the Shemash Kukuvin and Yard, when you start worshiping things outside of Yahuwah Elohim, when you start doing things opposite, and you start worshiping his creation, you were worshiping. You say you're worshiping the shining one, Satan, because Satan be shining too. Satan be shining in the earth too. He a light too. He a light to some people. He a light too. No matter what color he come in the form of, he a light too to the world. He could be in anybody. And he can shine as a light. A shining one. But he's talking about the king of Babylon. Right? Nebuchadnezzar, right? King of Babylon, right? He said, why we went here again? Right? This is Shemuth, Exodus 27, 1 through 4. You shall make the altar of Ashr'y wood 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar or mizbah shall be square. So it's going to be supposed to be square. And its height shall be 3 cubits. Its height shall be 3 cubits high. And you shall make horns or karen for its 4 corners. So you're going to make the altar at its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it. And you shall overlay it with bronze. It said be one piece with it. It's all should be one. And ye shall make pots for it to receive its ashes, and shovels, and basins, and forks, and fires, and pans. Ye shall make it, all of its utensils of bronze. You got to make it of bronze. You shall also make for it a grating, a network, a bronze. And on the net you shall make 4 bronze rings at its 4 Arabah corners. You got to make it at the 4 corners, at the Arabah. And where for 4 is Arabah corners. That's what he says. Right? But 4 horns. But it said that word for altar is, they put mizbeach. But they see right here, they got beach. It's really mizbach. Miz, right here, you have bach. But they have beach. Mizbeach. It's an altar. Right? It's an altar. He said they got mizbach. It's an altar. He said but they have mizbeach, but it's mizbach. Right? See, why would they do that? Right. So this is what they call the football. Right. Affiliation of the Shani tribe tribal affiliation of the Shawnee people, of the indigenous, Native Americans, or the tribal people of the lands of Parias and Turtle Island. Right? The Pitikawi is absent from this case, right? Because you have the museum, it says because it was actually a ceremonial ball that they had that was for the Shawnee people that they had, and it was a ritual that they performed. It's absent from this case because it is a ceremonial object. It's a ceremonial object. It is used during a spring bread dance. It is a series of ceremonial ball games. Now we just talked about in 2 Samuel how they competed with 12 on one side and 1 on the other, and they went in the middle of the pool and they competed. And they threw their sword in their side, and 12 men were on each side. You know, in their sport, it's what? A penalty. And then they had a fast person in there. You know, you got to have speed. And all this was a part of it. And it says, and at the end of the game, the football is destroyed according to the traditions. It's destroyed. It's not used anymore, ever again. Isn't that what they did then? The ball is not meant to be used again. Isn't that what they do today? The Shawnee tribe has requested that this item not be displayed. And as an indigenous institution, and people say, why do you do that? It says what? Football game. Right? Football game. Right? He said, why you put that? Right? So this is a Fort Castillo de Marcus in St. Augustine. He said, why? He said, when we made, he said, make you an altar. And at the 4 corners of the altar, you know what you need to do? He said, put some horns. Right? Put 4 horns at the 4 corners of the altar. And make it a certain way. Right? And make it a certain way. And when you look at it, he said, what does this all represent? Right? This altar was, built, right? It's called Port Concilium de San Marcos, Castillo, but it was symbolizing by Ponce de Leon when he came to the land, Parias, Turtle Island, and he formed and shaped a colony, the first colony that was established in Florida, in the United States, what they call the corporation. And they formed this fort as a protection hub for trade routes into that region of waterways in the jet stream. And inside of this, fort, they have prisons, they have food storage, they have a religious Catholic priest sanctuary. Next to it, they have an indigenous prayer room for Indians right next to it, for the slaves that they took from the indigenous people and put them inside of it. And this whole fort was established, and notice at the top, so what? Notice at the top. Notice at the top. Right, you see, he said, what does that all represent? Right? Just like any other nucleus in a body or any type of sound vibrational frequency, when you make something, when you put water inside of a sound vibrational frequency, you put it in a cup, and you take a microscopic image of that sound vibrational frequency of the water, it'll show an image of a star or some type of a symbol. And these are one of the symbols that appears inside the sound vibrational frequency inside water in a cup. The only reason we went here is because of what? He said, make your altar at the 4 corners of here. Because Ponce de Leon was the first to establish his colony in Puerto Rico, all throughout the regions of Florida. And he was a Spaniard who brought the language of Spanish to this landmass in English. That was not the original language. And right here, it says right here, pull this, it said in Florida in 1513, Ponce de Leon, the Spaniard, landed here on Easter Sunday. The Spanish Pascua de Flores, meaning the Feast of Flowers, for which the state is named. He said, why would they do that? To symbolize the conquering of a place that's not theirs. But at the same time, people that didn't convert to Catholicism and did not acknowledge Catholicism, they would cut their head off, behead them. And anybody who supported, that was of the Spaniards or the conquistadors that came from other countries who brought the warships, they beheaded them too. If you did not support what they were doing. And if you did not convert, that was your punishment, and that was your death. Right? Because Ponce de Leon was an emperor who wanted to expand his kingdom from his region. And he came all the way over here and sent his warships to do reconnaissance on this place. Right? And the only reason they went here is because of the Fountain of Youth. They had waters there with minerals and lots of minerals in the water. And the water actually had multiple, fountains that they used and they protected for their people. And they stole from others. But it goes a little deeper. Here we go. So you see here. What do you see? He said, make me an altar. Make me an altar and let it be square. And put horns at the four corners of the altar. Put Quran at the four corners of the altar. And let it be of one piece. Because that's what he told him. He said, let it be of one piece. And who is the people? The Shawnee people who had the football? The Shawnee tribe, the Native American tribe, they were the first people. That was their ritualistic game, and now it's been taken and been monetized, and they actually even took the bar from the given to Ashr'y and the Levitical priesthood, and they make giant altars today. And those giant altars is where they offer to somebody else. Who do you think they're offering to? But at the same time, he said, oh, you're trying to tell people to... No, I'm just enlightening you to the truth. Because people need to know. Because people deserve to know the truth. Because it's all a part of this whole construct that's been put over your eyes. And these are you. It's billions of dollars, but at the same time, many people had to be beheaded, killed, and other things had to take place in order for this to even be established. Even for them to even take this out of the Torah itself, out of Exodus Shemut 27, and place it right in your face, and you not even know it. Right, so these are the lost tribes of the Florida's lost tribes, right? So you got, of course, we know, and we look at the fort that's actually in Florida, but then we also look at the other tribes that were eradicated from that region, right? So and people saying, why are you talking about it? You got the Pensacola. People saying, why do they call it? Yeah, the Pensacola, the Appalachia, the Guale, the Timakur, the Patano, Ocole, the Tabaka, the Miami, the Aydah, the Jieka, the Tekesa, the Matecuma, and the Calusa. All these people were eradicated. These are all the tribes that they lived in Florida, in the land that was stolen. That was stolen by the Spaniards, by what they call the warships of Christopher Columbus, who landed here and formed alliance with the Spaniards, enforced all these tribes had different languages. Their original language is not English, and their original language is not Spanish. The original language of the Maya people, the Aztec, the Inca, right, the many tribes in Mexica and Mexico, all throughout South America and Panama, is not Spanish, and it's not English. That is not their original tribal languages, and that is not their original language. Never was. Right? So this right here, it says Native Americans right here have lived in Florida for, that's what it says, more than 13,000 years. That's what it says. Hunting and gathering and fishing and prevailing in the way of life. During the last 1,000 years, some of the tribes also adopted agriculture. They did it. And it says right here, a time passed, Florida's indigenous Native Americans grew in number, and their cultures became more complex. They lived mostly near water in villages or camps. In 1500s, Native Americans were decimated by disease, warfare, and slavery. He said this is before 1777. From what? From slavery. And guess what? By the 1700s, their numbers were reduced to remnants. 1777. To what? To remnants. At this time, Creek Indians from Alabama and Georgia moved into Florida and became known as the Seminoles. Right, so we said focus on, we said, what's these people right here? The Miami. You know how you say Miami? Miami? Maya-imi. Right? Maya-imi. Right? So, because we read that, but at the same time, 13th, right? When you start looking at this in times past, right? He said they were eradicated. It's by disease, warfare, and slavery, because they brought diseases over here. Biological warfare. It ain't nothing new. Diseases, warfare, slavery. They ain't just have Negro, like black slaves, Negro slaves, people from Ghana, them big bodies, they stuck in cages and look like monkeys. They put indigenous Native Americans in cages too and made them as slaves. They did the same thing to them. They did everybody. Everybody. Right? So the Miami, they said Miami is a noun, right? Miamis. They said that member of North American people formerly lived in mainly Illinois. They got Miami. You ever seen? They say Miami, Ohio. Miami, Ohio, mainly in Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin, and recently inhabiting areas of Ohio, Kansas, and Oklahoma. Miami people. Yeah, Miami is not a word. Miami is not a word in Spanish. It is an indigenous name of Lake Okeechobee. Miami, you know, that big lake of water. That's where the Miami people live, near Lake Okeechobee. Originally, the Lake Miami by the people who lived in the area, also known as the Miami people. Not to be confused with the Miami people of the Great Lakes, because the Miami people lived near the Great Lakes. They lived near water. The Miami people lived near Lake Okeechobee, the big lake in the middle of Florida. They said, what happened to the Miami people? The Miami were once the longest lasting Native American tribes, and Christian missionaries reported that the surviving Miami people fled to Cuba after Spain lost Florida in 1763. Who they lost it to? The European, to Christopher Columbus and all the other people who came over here. Because, you know, when you start gaining land, you know, other people start coming in and they get envious and jealous and covetous, and they want it too. Because it has resources, it has water, it has fish, it has land, it has coconuts, it got all of the different things. It's untapped. It got gold. Why would they leave that alone? It got all the resources you need. And the Miami people are now considered extinct. Huh? The people of Lake Okeechobee, the original people, are considered extinct. The Miami people Miami, were Native American people who lived around Lake Miami, now Lake Okeechobee. in Belgrade's area of Florida. From the beginning of the Common Era of the 18th century in the language of Miami, Kaluska, it says the languages of Miami is English. No. The language in Miami is Spanish. No. The language in Miami is Calusa, Tecoquesta, and the Tequesca tribe, Miami meant big water. Big water. It meant big water, right? It's, how you say, Chief Saturua, right? Right? Because you start looking at the cosmos, right? It says Chief Saturua was a chief of the Saturua tribe, or Timbuktu. That's northern near St. John's River, like Palaca, Jacksonville, that area. During the 16th century, his main village, also known as Saturua, was located in the south bank of the river in its mouth, and according to the French sources, he was a sovereign over 30 other villages and chiefs. Chief Saturua was a prominent figure in the early ages of the European settlement in Florida. That's how they lost. The Spaniard lost. Ponce de Leon lost. He like, man, we done lost. There's a reason why. Chief Saturua was a prominent figure in the early days of the European settlement in Florida, forging friendly relations with the French Huguenot settlers who founded Fort Caroline in his territory. Saturua was the main chef of cacique of the Timbuktu tribe in this region, including the Indian village of Seloy, located here where the Spanish explorer Pedro Mendez landed in 1565. So the Spaniards, once Ponce de Leon got here, everybody started coming. And Timbuktu successfully lived here for 4,000 years and helped the Spanish establish the first permanent European settlement in America on the site which became known as St. Augustine. Right? Yeah, he said St. Augustine. Ray Charles, he grew up there. One of the first settlements, right? They all grew up there. Martin Luther King had 6 safe houses there. All these people were there. Right? It has mineral water that come out of the ground. Right? He said, but here we go. Right, so this is Little Turtle. It's a Little Turtle. It's a Miami, Illinois, right? That's northern. They near Cahokia Mountains. There's a Cahokia Mountains in northern Illinois. It says was a Sagamore chief of the Miami people who became one of the most famous Native American military leaders. Historians Wally Sword calls him perhaps the most capable Indian leader in the Northwest Territory. Although he later signed several treaties ceding land, which caused him to lose his leader status during the battles, which became prelude to a war in 1812. Why? Because they gave it the land. You lost. Once the Europeans came, like Queen Charlotte and the people, and they started naming fault lines after them, started naming lands, and all the people came over here and renamed Noepe and called it Martha's Island. When all these people came over here and started taking over the lands, and they started giving up their land to treaties to the Europeans. After the Spaniards, they were defeated by the Spaniards. He would say, what is the Civil War? The Civil War had everything to do with the Spaniards and the Europeans fighting over land masses and things that were here already, and that was owned by other people. It says in the 1790s, Mishsinahaka led the Confederation of Native warriors to several major victories against the U.S. forces in the Northwest Indian Wars, sometimes called Little Turtle's War. Particularly St. Clair's defeat in 1791, wherein Confederation defeated General Arthur St. Clair, who lost 900 men in the most decisive loss in the U.S. Army against Native American forces. Right, so skipping over, right? It says the Trail of Tears was a forced displacement of approximately 60,000 people. It was more than that. Of 5 civilized tribes between 1830 and 1850. Considering all the people, the millions that were destroyed, and this is an additional thousands of Native Americans that were enslaved, and they're enslaved African Americans. Oh, he say brown-skinned people. Within that were ethically cleansed by the United States government. As part of the Indian removal, members of the Cherokee, the Muskogee, the Seminole, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw nations were forcibly removed from their ancestral homelands into the southeast United States to newly designated Indian territories west of the Mississippi River after the passage of the Indian Removal Act in 1830. The Indian Removal Act. The Cherokee removal in 1838 was the last forced removal east of the Mississippi and was brought on by the discovery of gold near Aydahchay, Georgia in 1828. You know, in the gold there, you already know what's going to happen to you. Resulting in the Georgia Gold Rush. The relocated peoples suffered from exposure, disease, starvation while en route to a newly designated Indian reserve. Thousands died. Thousands. From disease and reaching the destination or shortly after. A variety of scholars have classified the Trail of Tears as an example of genocide of Native Americans. Others categorize it as ethnic cleansing. Right? So you look at all that, and you see them building altars, just like the tribe of Louis. I say you see them making replicas of it, but they put in stadiums and they using the same football that they stole, the same name, and they used it and monetized it, and they stole the land, and they took the gold, and they just relocated you, and they made people extinct, and stole their languages, and removed them from out of their land. All at the same time. Right? So this is from that museum, but it says our ancestral homeland. Let's talk about a map, the location of ancestral homelands. The first Americans of now live in Oklahoma. The original stories of the 39 tribal nations, right? Each one of them, they had their own language. One English and Spanish, and have been carried across generations through oral traditions. These stories are linked to specific places across the continent, right? Our oral histories provide centuries of localized knowledge about these places, right? When we talk about all these different regions that are around here, we look at all these things, right? So this is talking about the native languages as a weapon. The United States' more effective secret weapon in World War I and World War II were the first American languages. Non-Indian teachers at boarding schools were trying to erase tribal languages as part of the assimilation policies. You've been assimilated. They are trying to erase the actual tribal languages. Ironically, the same languages were used as weapons of war, weapons in war zones to protect freedom of all Americans. Why? Because they learned their language back. They learned their Lashon back. And guess what's going to happen? It was given to all Americans, right? But then if they learn their language back, they're gonna want it back. Why you think he say Abri Lashon Hebrew? He said, why you want to learn your language back? Why are you speaking? What are you speaking? Because it's a tactic. It's a tactic against you. Because if you don't speak it, you're gonna keep saying their words and keep repeating the spell, and get what you do. You're gonna keep being induced, and you'll never be able to convert back to who you were. It says the Choctaw language was used as a code to send messages on the battlefield in World War I. They use your language. Isn't that what they do today? With our breed Lashon? Don't they use your language too? They use everything you have. It says send messages to battle in World War I. In World War II, to the military relied on the Comanche, the Choctaw, the Cherokee, the Kiowa, the Muskogee, the Creek, Osage, the Pawnee, the Ponca, the Seminole, the Cheyenne, and the Arapaho, and other tribal languages to send coded messages inside of the same indigenous languages that they refuse to let the other people learn. They won't even let you learn your own language, but they use your language to send codes in, which means they were very skilled in learning other people's languages. Because they study your language, right? Because symbol of change, right? It says new owners meant change. Castillo de San Marcos of Fort St. Mark and San Augusta and St. Augustine, a few single beds is adhered to many bunk beds. Spanish was spoken for almost 200 years, and then English became the language of the time, which symbolizes a change in your life. When you have a change in your life, well, don't give over yourself. Don't meddle with a person giving over the change. They show change your language. They change the way you speak. No arbila show. How you say su, ku, Zaire. They ain't gonna make you speak that. You know what they gonna say? Keep on speaking your Lashon. Keep on speaking English. Right? Just keep on saying Spanish. There ain't nothing wrong with it. But the only reason why you being so, because the truth is the truth. Right, yeah, Spanish and English. Right, Spanish is used everywhere. English is used all around the world. Spanish is used in some regions. It's a very valuable language to know, and English. But why are the indigenous languages not as valuable as the other ones? Why can't the people indigenous remember their whole culture? Why can't people be in the community of what you call the African Americans? Why can't the language be learned how it originally was spoken, with all these different codes and all these different things and all these different buttons and these little things that people put on it? Because nobody spoke like what you say. Nobody spoke like that. Right, so this is the right state. The word Oklahoma is a Choctaw Indian word, which means red people. That's what Oklahoma means. Adama. And Yahuwah formed Adam from the Adama and breathed into his nostrils, and he became a living soul. It means red people. You know, like Esau was red. Adama, Esau was red. Dawah was ruddy. Adam was red. He was ruddy. He was made from the Adama. It said 1803, Oklahoma was added to the United States as part of the Louisiana Purchase. They always purchased something. It always cost some money. In 1828, we were adding you to the Louisiana after we purchased you with the gold we stole in Georgia. Used the same money that we took, the gold, the land, and then used the same money to buy you back. And then it says in purchase in 1828, the U.S. Congress reserved Oklahoma for the Native Americans and required all others to withdraw. Right? So this Osceola, Chief Osceola, you know the Osceola the Seminoles, and he go in the middle of the stadium and he hit that thing down. Amazing, he in the middle of a stadium. And it says, it says right here, Vise Hello in Creek, also spelled Asi Yahola, named Billy Powell in birth in Alabama, became the influential leader of the Seminole people in Florida. His mother was Muskogee, and his great-grandfather was a Scotsman. How you say, through intermarriage? James McQueen, Scotsman James McQueen, he was reared by his mother in the Creek Muskogee tradition. When he was a child, they migrated to Florida with other Red Stick refugees. He said Red Stick. Led by a relative, Peter McQueen. And after their groups defeat in 1814 in Creek Wars, because everybody fighting, because everybody want their stuff back, they became part of what is known as the Seminole people. In 1836, Osceola led a small group of warriors in the Seminole resistance during the Second Seminole War, when the United States tried to remove the tribe from their lands in Florida to the Indian Territory west of the Mississippi River. Where was that? Oklahoma. And they fought. He's like, you ain't moving us. And he says, he became an advisor to Mikapi, the principal chief of the Seminole, in 1825 and 1849. Osceola led the Seminole resistance to the removal until he was captured in October 21st, 1837, by deception under a flag of truce, when he went to the site of Fort Payne to peace talks. He said, when peace and safety, sudden destruction come upon you unawares. That's what they say. When they tell you peace and safety, you're going to be peace talks. And it says the United States first imprisoned him in Fort Marion in St. Augustine. Where? In the first colony. Older than Jamestown. Older than Roanoke. Older than Plymouth Rock. And it says, then transported him to Fort Moraine in Charleston, South Carolina. Notice all these forts. He died there a few months later of causes reported by internal infection or malaria. Because of his renown, Osceola has attracted many visitors to the prison, including renowned artist George Catlin, who painted perhaps the most well-known portrait of the Seminole leader. Right? He said, why you got that? Right? The chiefs. He said, why they call him chief? You know why they call him chief? And they put the stadium right there in your face. They put the altar right there. Look. He said, put it at the four corners of it, right? Put four horns at the four corners and make you an altar. He said, for who? Who are you doing that for? You know who? But it's all a part of the facade. Because all of it's important. But it's important to see it. What do these look like? They look like booster rockets. When you look at it, we say, what is that? They got spirals. He said, why do I say that? I said, you need to know what you're dealing with. He said, what does it look like? What does it look like? Look like a turtle shell. He said, what does it look like? A UFO. Oh, there go a UFO coming over the horizon. Oh, you mean a mothership? And what do motherships come to do? Usually when you watch the show, what do motherships come to do? Invade. They go to mothership. Isn't that what they say? Because the mothership is coming to invade. What does it look like? What does it look like? What they call a UFO? What you call a spaceship? Because they invaded your land. They invaded this place. Why they do that? That's what it's symbolizing. It's symbolizing an invasion. Right? That's what it's symbolizing. Right? This is the book of Ashr'y, chapter 10, verse 1 through 5. And Peleg, the son of Eber, died in those days. In the 48th year of his life, and Abraham Terah, and all the days of Peleg, 239 years. And when Yahuwah had scattered the sons of men on the account of their sins, at the tower, behold, they spread forth in many divisions. In many divisions. People saying, why are you divided? Because of your sins. He said, why is nobody united? Because it's because of your sins. Because of the sins, not only in Yasharal and Yehuda, it's the sins and the people who got converted. It's sins in everybody. Everybody hate each other. Everybody fight each other. And guess what? There's many divisions because of your sins. And then you look at all the people, even in the land you currently dwell, in some lands, and all over the world, you see everybody divided. Why? Because it's of a sin. And Yahuwah scattered everybody because of sin, many divisions. And all the sons of men were dispersed into the four corners of the earth. Oh, sound familiar? Sound familiar? They were scattered in the four corners of the earth because of sin. And then you divided as well. For some reason, why can't we just get along? Because you divided. And all the families became each up. And guess what it says? And all the families became each according to its language, its land, or its city. The sons of men built many cities according to their families. He said, why Yahushua came to die? In all the places where they went, and throughout the earth where your master has scattered them. He scattered all. Yahuwah has scattered them. And some of them built cities in places from which they were afterward extirpated. How you say kicked out? Extirpated. And they called these cities after their own names. Everybody started taking stuff and fighting. And guess what? Or the names of their children, or after their particular occurrences for concilium des Simones. In other forts, in other lands, changing, right? But it says right here, and the sons of Japheth, the sons of Nuach, went and built themselves cities in the places where they were scattered. And they called all their cities after their names, and the son of Japheth were divided upon the face of the earth into many divisions and languages. And these sons of Japheth, according to their families, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, Tiras. These are the children of Japheth according to their generations. Right? This is the book of Ashr'y. And it says, and the children of Gomer, spreading their cities, were Pharcon, who dwelt in the land of Fanza, and the river of Fanza, and the river of Sinah. And the children of Rephah are the Bartermim, who dwell in the land of Bartanonia, by the river of Aydah, which empties into the waters of the great sea Gihon, that is Oceanus. It says, and the children of Tagurma, and 10 families. And these are the names of Bazar, Parzunak, Balgar, Elukam, Ragi, Tarki, Bid, Zabuk, Agal, Timal. All these spread and rested in the north and built themselves cities. And they called their cities after their own names. Those are they who abide by the rivers Hilah and Italak unto this day. And it says right here, but the families of Angoli, Bulgar, Panu, it says Parzunak, they dwell in the great river Dubni, and the names of their cities are according to their own names. And the children of Javan are the Jawim, who dwelt in the land of Macedonia, and the children of Medicare and Arilam, and dwell in the land of Cushan. And the children of Tubal are those that dwell in the land of Tishkenah, in the river of Pashia. And the children of Meshech and Sheba, Shini, and the children of Tiras and Ruhash, and Cushi, and Agalus, all these went and built themselves cities. These are the cities that are situated by the sea of Jabus, by the river Kura, which empties into the river Trigon. Now this is their book, right? And it says right here, and the children of Elisha are Almanim, and they also went and built themselves cities. Those are the cities situated between the mountains of Joab and Shebathomo. And of them were the people of Lombardy. Who dwell opposite the mountains of Joab and Shebathomo, and they conquered the land of Italia, and remained there until this day. Right? The Lombards were Germanic people who ruled over the Italian peninsula from 1568 to 774, with the origins near Eleb in northern Germany and Scania in the southern Sweden before the migration period. It says, according to tradition, the Lombards initially called themselves the Winnerly. How do you say Winner? Isn't that what they say? Win. You gotta win. They call themselves the Winnerly. Why do you say you gotta win? After a reported majority victory against the Vandals in the 1st century, they changed their names to Lombards. To the Lombard after they win. After you win, you change your name. Just like Abraham, after he won, Yahuwah say, your name gonna no longer be called Abraham, but Abraham. Her name ain't no longer gonna be called Sarah, but Sarah. After a reported major victory against the Vandals in the 1st century, they changed their names to the Lombards. The name Winnerly is generally translated as the wolves. As the what? As the wolves. related to the pro-Germanic root wolfas, wolf. The name Lombard was reportedly derived from distinctly long beards of the Lombards, like lumber yard. Fee, five-fold thumb. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Y'all had long beards. Lombards. It is probably a compound of Proto-Germanic. It says Proto-Germanic, right, elements. But he said, why you got a big giant altar in the air? Fee, five-fold thumb. I smell the blood of an Englishman. He said long beard, lumber, right? This Luke 12, 2-3. For there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, nor hidden that will not be known. Therefore, whatsoever you have spoken in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have spoken in the ear, in the inner rooms, will be proclaimed on the housetops. He said, why are you proclaiming on the housetop? Like when you start looking at this truth, and he said, looking at all this stuff, but at the same time, when we start looking at everything, he said, why do they do that? Why they take the football and they put it in the stadium, and then they say, hey, you know what? Even though we did all that, just come on in, right? But then you start to see all the things that they do. It's the truth. He said, why? So you know what you're dealing with. He said, why they got motherships and stadiums in Europe and look like UFOs and look like flying saucers, is what they call them. Because they conquer you, just like a mothership come and conquer you. Because they were more technologically advanced than you. They say the Tartarian Empire, using sound vibrational frequencies and other things to formulate and create their force. But did you say what type of frequency were they using? But just like any other thing, when your firepower outdo yours, we're the mothership with the superior firepower who took over your stuff. So we had the musket gun, we had the cannon. Right, we had the different firepower cannons, the spike cannon, the roundhouse cannon, the roundhouse ball. We had all different types of guns and things you ain't never seen before. All you have are arrows, primitive weapons. Right? So therefore, you are superior than us. So therefore, Yahuwah let us have it. He let everybody have it. He said, Yahuwah said that. He said, why Yahuwah did that? We just read it. Because of your sin. What did he say? He scattered you because of your sin. He said, why Yahuwah let your adversaries come and take you over? Yahuwah say, he said, man, it's all a plan though. He said, why he let everybody have it? Because Yahuwah tired of his people worshiping the sun, moon, the stars, and worshiping these idols and doing things they ain't got no business doing. He tired of it. He said, why he took over Ashr'y and had it destroyed and had him taken and cast out of the land? Because you were four-cornered because of your sin. That's why. Because you sin, because you don't worship him and you don't acknowledge him as your true Elohim. That's why he did it. And there's a lot more. I didn't say he just briefly scanned over it and you see how violent it was. But there's a lot more. Oh, there's a lot more. But at the same time, it's not to be, oh, this is bad, this is terrible. No, it's just to let you know what happened. Some of the things that happened. Ain't all the things. There's a lot more. He said he's going to talk about it more too. But it's a lot more. But it's just some of the things that took place. Right? Right, so this is Yuchanan chapter 12, 27 to 33. Now is my soul trouble. What shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. Why do you think Yahushua had to come? He said, why Yahushua had to come and die? Look at all the stuff people done did. He said, but for this purpose, and this hour, I have come to this hour. I'm at this point right now. He said, Father, glorify your name. He said, then a voice came from Shamaim, I have kaboded, glorified it, and I'll do it again. And the crowd stood there and heard it, said, wait, he said it had thundered. Because you know, Yahuwah thunders with a majestic voice, and he doesn't hold it back. And others said, and Malach had spoken to him. Yahushua answered, this voice came for your sake, not mine. He said, who's going to redeem all of this? Now is the judgment of this world. Now will the rulers of this world be cast out. He said, you show. the ruler of this world be cast out. Why do you think Satan does all these things? And when I am lifted up from the earth, when my intellect and knowledge is lifted up the earth, I will draw all people to myself. He said, I'm going to draw all people to myself. All the tribes, all the 39 tribes, all the lost tribes, all the people who have been decimated, all the people who are scattered throughout the four winds, all the people of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, who all were scattered out because of their sins and their languages, and nobody understood each other. All the different, he said, I'm going to draw all people to me. How he going to do that? Through his death. That's the only way he's going to get your attention. Through death. He said this to show what kind of death he was going to die. That's the only way he's going to get your attention. He said that's the only way I'm going to get your attention. What do you think all this competition was for? When people were competing against each other, when the Spaniards competed against each other, when against the European, when the Ashr'y was competing against each other in the pool, and they started fighting each other, people started dying. People started getting. He said, "How long are we gonna keep this up? How long are we gonna keep doing this?" He said, "How long are we gonna keep doing it? How long are you gonna hide the truth and keep hiding?" He said, "How long?" Verse Yochanan, this is Yochanan 19, 16 through 30. He said, now, so he delivered him over to them to be crucified. So they took Yahusha, and he went on bearing his own cross to the place called of Skull, which is in Aramaic called Golgotha. And they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on either side, and Yahusha between them. Isn't that where he between the pool? He had the servants of Dawood on one side and the servants of Yashar, Abner, and Ishbosheth on the other. And then he's sitting right in the middle. He's sitting right there in the middle. And guess what he said? It says, and Pilate also wrote the inscription and put it on the cross. It read, Yahushua of Nazareth, the king of the Yahudim. Many of Yahudim read this inscription, for the place where Yahushua was crucified was near to the city. And it was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. It was written in English, Spanish, and German. No, it's written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. Which means you had to know all them languages to even function in that type of world they were living in. And guess what it says? So the chief priest and the Yahudim said to Pilate, do not write the Malach of the Yahudim, but rather this man said, I am the Malach of the Yahudim. Pilate said, well, I have written. Because you know why? Because when the chief priest, when you get jealous and envious, and you got rivalries, and quarreling and fighting within yourself, and you hate your brother, you be like, this man said, he the king of the Yahudim. Then you start getting that hatred in your heart, and then guess what you do? You start trying to devise lies and try to make him look like he ain't nobody. Like we talked about not giving a flattering title, not being partial in judgment. That's what they do. We ain't giving him no flattering title. He a sinner. You can't put king of the Yahudim. Because they say flattering title. They showing no partiality in judgment. They're doing exactly what the Turah said. But they didn't even know they were doing it. They didn't know why they were doing it. He said, you ain't be aware that you don't give no what. Don't be partial in judgment. He said, if I be partial in judgment, Yahuwah will take me away. And what did Yahushua say here? Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. He was partial in judgment. And Yahuwah took him away. He was partial in judgment to us. He said, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But not the chief priest. He said, why would he do that for you? Verse 23, and when the soldiers had crucified Yahushua, they took his garments and divided him into 4 parts. He said, why you running after me? Why you pursuing me? That's what Abner said. He said, turn to the left and on the right and take somebody else's stuff. But you see what they did to Yahushua? They took his stuff. He like, what you pursuing me for? But the tunic was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. He tore it in 4 parts. How many parts are you supposed to put on the altar? 4 corners. He said, put 4 horns at the altar in the square, and guess what? Make it a one altar in one piece. Matter of fact, make it with 4 corners. Audible. You say, wait, who's this right here? Oh, he's just showing you the altar. He's the altar right here. So they said to one another, let us not tarry, but cast lots for it, to see whose it shall be. You know what they did? Let's cast lots. This was fulfilled the scripture. They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. Oh, they divided the American land, the lands of Parius and Turtle Island. And they cast lots. They divided. One of the divisions, he divided all the people and sent them to one little pot, and they divided the whole land. And he said, and he divided my garments among them, and my clothing they cast lots. They cast lots for my stuff. They cast lots for all the tribes and indigenous places of the earth in the land of Parius, Turtle Island. They did. Of Jerusalem. They cast lots for the people in the indigenous of the Yucatan. They cast lots for all your land, and they change your language. They cast lots. And it says, so the soldiers did these things by standing by the cross of Yahushua. It says, standing by the cross of Yahushua, were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. And when Yahushua saw his mother and his disciples whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, woman, behold your son. He like, behold your son. You know how you be on the field playing? Look at me, mama. You be around the field. Look at me. Hey, mama. Hey, mother. They always think they're mother, right? That's what they do. Then he said to the disciples, behold your mother. He said, man, look at your mother right there. And from that hour, the disciples took her to his own home. He said, hey, look at that. Right, this is Yucatan 19:28. And after this, Yahushua, knowing that all was finished, he said, to fulfill the scripture, I thirst. A jar of sour wine stood there. What did Abner say to him? He said, stop pursuing me. Stop pursuing me, man. Stop competing with me. Stop doing this. Stop competing with me. He said, it's not going to end. How long y'all going to keep fighting? How long are you going to keep pulling the sword? It's going to end in bitter for us. It's not going to be good for us. It's going to end in bitterness. And what happened to Yahushua right here? I thirst. A jar of sour wine stood there. So they put a sponge full of sour wine and a hyssop branch and held it to his mouth. The end is going to be bitter. And amazingly, the end was bitter for him. He said, stop pursuing me. And when Yahushua had received the sour wine, he said, it is finished. And he bowed his head and gave it the ruach. He said, why you say that? Because after they found out the 2 soldiers' bodies were dead, they were dead already. They broke his legs. But when they saw Yahushua was dead, guess what they did? They pierced him in his side, and out came blood and water. Just like Abner slew the man and told him, stop pursuing me. Stop fighting with me. Stop competing with me. Stop running after me. Bereshit 2:1. Thus the Shamains and the earth were finished. He's like, I finished this thing. And all the hosts of them. And on the 7th day, Shabbat, Yahuwah Elohim finished his work that he had done. And he rested on the Shabath, rested the 7th day, Shabbat day. Because the sun is going to shine at 7 days. As Yeshayahu said, the sun, the Kamar, is going to shine bright at 7 days. And he said, it is finished. On the 7th day, from all his work that he had done. So Elohim barak the 7th day, Shabbat day, and made a Qdash, because on it, Elohim rested from all his work that he had done in creation. How you gonna rest? He died. It's Yuchan 8:32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. How you say, enlighten your consciousness and your thought to let you know what you are actually dealing with. To know the truth. Not to react, but to know that Yahushua redeemed you not with corruptible things, with silver and gold, but with his precious blood. Oh, you mean red people? Oh, you mean a red man? You know how they say? Red man. Yeah, you know. Adam. Adam. This is Galatians 5:7-15. You were running well. He said you were running well. Wasn't the man chasing him? He's like, man, what you following me for? You were running well, though. You running real good. You sure follow me behind. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? He said, why don't you turn to the left and the right and stop following me, lest I slay you? Who hindered you from obeying the truth? Go get somebody else stuff. What you fight with me for? How long we gonna keep doing it? This persuasion is not from him who calls you. He said, I ain't make you do that. He said, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. The whole thing sin. Even though they were competing, they were like, yeah, fight, yeah, go against this person. He's like, man, the whole thing's sin. Look, how long we gonna keep doing this? It's gonna end in bitter for us. I have confidence, get what he says, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. I have confidence in the master that you will take no other view, and the one who is troubling you will bear the penalty, whoever he is. He said, why do you think that man, he was chasing behind him, running behind him, and he said, stop following me, stop fighting with me, stop doing this, stop pursuing me. And he says, but you won't obey. I don't want to quarrel with you. How would I be able to look my brother in the face if I kill you? And he still would not stop. He says, the person who was troubling him, he bared the penalty. What did he do? He died. He said, let him bear his penalty, whoever he is. But if I, brother, still preach circumcision, why am I still being persecuted? He's like, I'm still being persecuted. Why are you still following me around? Why am I still being persecuted? I'm telling people to cut things off. I'm preaching circumcision. In that case, the offense of the cross has been removed. I wish those who unsettle you would emasculate themselves. I wish they just cut themselves off. How long are you going to do this? And then he blew the horn, and guess what everybody did? Everybody left. Everybody left. He said they emasculated themselves. They cut themselves off. He said, I preach circumcision. He said, how long are we going to keep doing this? How long are we going to fight? That's circumcision, to stop. For you were called to freedom, brothers. Freedom from what? Quarreling, fighting, dissension, robberies, adultery, fornication, anger, fits of anger, crude joking, things, obscene things out of your mouth, spirit of deceit, hatred and envy, jealousy. You were called to freedom from that. Only do not let your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word: you shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. Please stop pursuing me. But if you bite and devour one another, watch out that you are not consumed one of another. That's what happened to him. He died. He said, whoever he is, let him bear the penalty. He said, that's what you get. He said, how long are you going to keep fighting? It's going to end in bitter for us. And people say, why Yahushua had to die? He had to die. Right? It's Galatians 5:16-21 again, but it says right here, but I say, walk in the Ruach, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. That's what they were not doing. Walk in the Ruach. For desires of the flesh are against the Ruach, and desires of the Ruach are against the flesh. It's a war, evil inclination. For these are opposed to each other. That's why it's called fighting. Let them compete against each other. They're all opposing each other and sticking swords in each other. killing each other. And then now, after it's over, then after they lost the battle, they start pursuing. Dawood's servant started pursuing even after they won. He's like, what you doing that for? Y'all won. You won. What you pursuing me for? Y'all won. Good. What you pursuing me for? But guess what? They opposing one another to keep you from doing things you want to do. But if you are led by the Ruach, you are not under the Torah, because you ain't breaking the Torah. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual morality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissension, divisions. How you say, why would they divide in divisions? Because of sin. He said, why he took all this stuff? Because of sin. Why he divided everybody in divisions in the land? Because of sin. But guess what? It's because they thought it was sin. Because he said, when Ponce Leon and them came over here, and everybody said, in the name of our God, we're going to kill you. Because they thought. He said they call it ethnic cleansing. Because they thought that their religion and their thoughts were greater than yours. So they came in and divided your land. Because you know why? Because they wanted to be like the Most High. Because we just read in the book of Ashr'y. What did he do? He saw they were sinning. He saw they were making a name for themselves. What did he do? He divided them. He made a division between them. And he separated them in their languages. He separated them from their language. And he scattered them. And they did the same thing. Because he said, how art thou fallen, O Hallel? Is this the man who did weaken the nations? Who made the earth tremble? Who shook kingdoms? Who shook villages? Who shook land masses? Who shook all the people? Who stole their land? Is this the man? That's who he was. In the name of their God. What God? And they used, how you say, JC to do it. They used Jesus Christ to do it. And it says, dissension and robberies, envy and drunkenness, orgies. Because he said, many gonna come in my name. Come in the name, they say, I'm anointed. You get what he said? They gonna deceive men. Matter of fact, whole kingdoms, whole people. He said, many gonna come. And they gonna deceive you. You just don't know it. He said, many gonna come using my name like that. Using the name that they proclaim to be anointed. And he said, get what? Yeah, but it said jealousy, robbery, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these, I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. Huh? So all the people who did all this, he said, if you don't repent, you think you're going to inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah? For all the people who continually do this today, he said, you think you're going to inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah? Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Ruach is love, aha. This is one thing, all the extreme beliefs, but there's one thing that man can't do. Love your neighbors, you love yourself. Show kindness. That's the one thing that's missing. Joy. That's the first thing. You can't have joy without love. It'd be fake joy. And you can't have peace without joy and love. Ain't no way you can have peace without joy and love. Patience. That's Arak. Simcha, aha, Arak. Kindness, kasi, goodness, ta'u, faithfulness, amunah, gentleness, anah, self-control, ta'ka. Against such things, there is no Torah. There is no law against doing these practices in society, in the community, in a landmass, in a country. He said, in forgiving and showing the truth, because the truth gonna set people free and mentally free. Then they'll be free. He said, and those, after they receive the truth, can accept it and offer forgiveness to those who repent. He said, you won't get into the kingdom. He said, oh, that's the truth. And then and the people that did it, if they repent, you must forgive them. And guess what? So they can get in the kingdom. So you can get in the kingdom. You ain't gonna get in the Malkut if you don't forgive them. And they ain't not gonna get in the Malkut if they don't acknowledge what they've done. So either way it go, everybody gotta do what's right. And those who belong to Mashiach, Yahushua, have crucified the flesh and its passions and desires. Because everybody got desire to do all them things in worship flesh. But you gotta kill the very thing inside of you. You gotta offer it up. And you gotta fear Yahuwah and do it. Like Abraham. Yahuwah will bring you back to life. That's why he got his son. That's why his son Yahushua died. Verse 25, if we live by the Ruach, let us keep in step with the Ruach. Why do you think the man was chasing the Abner? He's like, he's trying to keep in step with him. But he said, but they were doing it according to the flesh. He said, let us not become conceited, provoking one another, and envying one another. Didn't the servants of Dawood win the war? Win the compete and won? But then now he get conceited. And then he started provoking the person. He was like, turn aside from me. I ain't got no quarrel with you. Matter of fact, if you don't, I'm going to kill you. He was provoking the man. And guess what? Envying one another. He said, what you still following me for? And then guess what that produced in the other person? Envy. And guess what envy do? Kill you. That's what happened to him. We almost finished. This is Hebrews 12, 15. Therefore, lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees and make straight paths for your feet, so that what is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather healed. Strive for peace with everyone. People say, I want peace. You know what people say? Kill everybody. They want to destroy everything. He said, strive for peace with everyone. And for the Qdash, without which no one will see Yahuwah. He's like, how you gonna see Yahuwah and you up here want people things that happen to them? He said, strive with peace with everybody. That's every person. Every color, creed, people. See to it that no one fails to obtain the kind of Yahuwah. What are you doing? You're not supposed, he said that no one fails to finish the race. He been saying, what you mean? Everybody gotta finish the race. You trying to make sure nobody finish the race. Everybody need to finish. Even the people you hate. That you got a quarrel and a rivalry with. That y'all can't come to terms. He like, even those people, you gotta make sure they don't win, they don't lose. That they don't fail to obtain the kind of Yahuwah. That no root of bitterness spring up and cause trouble, and many become defiled. What did Abner say? He said, how long are we going to continue to pull the sword? Shall it not be bitter for us in the end? And he said, had you not said these things, we surely would not have stopped. And he brooded Turah, and guess what? Everybody went home. And guess what's going to happen? He said, people are going to be defiled if you keep doing it. And then guess what? Nobody going to obtain the Khan of Yahuwah because of you. He said, all the people gathered as one man with the servant of Yahuwah, Yehuda. Because they were coming after Abner. And Abner was like, what y'all keep doing this for? He said, please stop. Or all y'all gonna be defiled. And it's gonna be bitter for you. All you people join against one person. All right, so this is 1 Timothy 6, 3-10. If anyone teaches a different doctrine and does not agree with the sound words of Adonai Mashiach Yahushua, in the teaching according with righteousness, he is puffed up. Man, he got so much. He puffed the magic dragon who lives by the sea. And he said, "Man, you the dragon." He said, "You puffed up with conceit," which means you are full of conceit. You have now become conceited and understanding nothing. You don't understand nothing. He has unhealthy craving for controversy, for quarrels about with words. You see what happened with quarrels about with words. You start saying things out of your mouth you shouldn't say. And then who will be testing you? You be like, "Man, I shouldn't have said that." Or you'll have a person, you quarrel and fight, and somebody end up getting killed, or getting slain, or getting hurt, or getting something happen. And guess what happens when you quarrel about with words? Some people got a habit of doing it. It produces envy, dissension, slander, and evil suspicion. That's all it does. And it's even worse when the leader does it. As Abner and the servants of Yehuda did. It gets even worse. Evil suspicion and constant friction among people. Man, they ain't never going to. He said, how long are we going to keep doing this? They're going to be bitter. Who are depraved in mind and deprived of the truth. How long? He said, yeah, these people have slaughtered a lot of people. But he said, how long are we going to keep quarreling about with words and producing all this envy and jealousy and slander and evil suspicions and constant friction among people depraved in mind and deprived of the truth? Nobody going to obtain the promise. If you can't get in your mind that you got to live at peace with everybody. If you can't get this in your consciousness, you're going to cause a lot of people to be bitter. You're going to cause a lot of people to not obtain salvation. Guess what? Imagining that righteousness is a means of gain. That's what they think. You constant free. You think it's a gain. What did the person do when he was pursuing Abner? He said, man, go turn to the left and the right and go take somebody else's stuff and get your gain. He thinking that he done won the battle. Now he can pursue him and take all his money, take all his goods. He like, man, he could take somebody else's goods. You think righteousness is gain? Righteousness is for you to stop doing what you're doing and pursuing me. Righteousness is for y'all to stop doing what y'all doing and stop doing all this wickedness. And start bringing the sword and start bringing bitterness on people. That's what Abner said. But righteousness with contentment is great gain. You won the battle. For we bought nothing in this world, and we cannot take nothing out of the world. That person that Abner slew, could he take anything out of the world after he killed him? He couldn't take it. What you gonna take then? Absolutely nothing. But if we have food and clothing, there would be content. See, that's what the man should have did. He should have been content with his life and his food and clothing and just went on his way. Stop trying to take other people's stuff. But you know what they did? Yahushua's garments. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Why? Because you're going to continually do that, and you're going to forget about the vows you made to Yahuwah, and your dreams and all your things is going to become vanity and things you want to attain, and you're going to forget about your vow to Yahuwah. It says, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from Amunah and pierced themselves with many pains. Why? Because they'll quarrel and fight just to slander people and just to get some money. He said on a super chat. How you have a super chat slandering and cursing people out and doing all this stuff and people giving you money while you're doing it at the same time? And slandering and gossiping about people and having dissension and rivalries and envy and jealousy while people giving you a super chat. It's crazy. And he's like, I'm going to get in the kingdom. I'm going to get in the Malkut. Man, you ain't getting no Malkut. And then super chat. Thanks for the super chat. You blank. What you saying? All this stuff you saying about people. Thus said, 1 Corinthians chapter 16. What in the world? Psalm 50, 16 to 20, 23. But to the wicked, Yahuwah says, what right have you to recite my statutes or take my covenant in your lips? You look like what you got this stuff in your lips for? What are you even repeating this stuff for? For you hate discipline, you hate, and cast my words behind you. If you see a thief, you are pleased with him, and you keep company with adulterers. You give your mouth free rein for evil, and your tongue frames deceit. That's why he say, that's why they do it, the spirit of deceit. That's why they do it. You sit and speak against your brother, you slander your own mother's son. You slander your own mother's son. Why do you think they said, behold your mother? Woman, behold your son. Behold your mother. Hey, mama. Hey, mother. He had divided his garments into four corners. He on the field. He right there in the middle of the altar. He on the field. He was right there in the middle of the fort. Hey, these things you have done, and I have been silent. You thought I was one like yourself? You thought I'd do that stuff? But now I rebuke you and lay charge before you. Mark this. Then you who forget Yahuwah. You forgot about me. Lest I tear you apart and there be none to deliver. Why do you think they ripped his garments? Why do you think they took it off? Why do you think he made these forts with these four corners? He said, and he tore this place apart. Because you forgot Yahuwah. You forgot his commandments. You forgot to keep the cars and move out of the feet. And you forgot to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And if things don't stop, he gonna do it again. Verse 23, the one who offers thanksgiving as a sacrifice glorifies me. To the one who orders his way rightly, I will so show him the salvation of Yahuwah. If the son of Adam be lifted up, I'm going to draw all people to myself. Right, Lamentations, Aydah 3:52-66. I have been hunted like a bird by those who were my enemies without a cause. They flung me alive into the pit and cast stones on me. They threw me and buried me. Water closed over my head. Water closed over my head. And I said, I am lost. Oh, you mean you're lost, tribe. I called on the name of Yahuwah from the depths of the pit. He said, how art thou fallen, O Hallel? He said, you gonna enter. He said, you gonna go into the sides of the pit. How art thou fallen? He said, 12 sun rays. How y'all falling? He says, you heard my plea. Do not close my ears at my cry for help. You came near when I called on you, and you said, do not fear. You have taken up my cause, Yahuwah. You have redeemed my life. You have seen the wrong done to me. You think Yahuwah ain't seen it? Yahuwah judged my cause. You've seen all their vengeance, all their plots against me. He said, you've seen all their plots. Lamentations, Aydah 3:61-66. You have heard their taunts, Yahuwah, all their plots against me. The lips and thoughts of my assailants are against me all the day long. They won't stop. They won't stop. Why? When they gonna stop? Behold, they're sitting and they're rising. They won't stop talking. I am the object of their taunts. They won't stop. Yahuwah should like, why are you persecuting me? You will repay them, Yahuwah, according to the works of their hands. He said, you keep on doing it. You will give them dullness of heart. That's what's going to happen. You're going to become blind in your heart. Your curse will be on them. You will pursue them in anger and destroy them from under your Shamaim, O Yahuwah. You say, why do you keep doing that? Right? You have heard their taunts, Yahuwah, and their plots. That word for plots is makashba. Yahuwah say, he heard all your thoughts, your devices, your intentions, your plans, your designs, your inventive things, your devices. He said, I heard everything you do. Your cunning, your curious work, your devices, your imaginations, the things you invented in your mind, your purpose. He said, Yahuwah heard all your purposes and everything against me. That's what Yahushua says. He said, I heard it all. I seen it all. He said he already seen it. And he see all the things that people are doing today who crucifying Yahushua afresh and bring him to an open shame. He said, you have heard their taunts and their plots. That word is makashba. You see that word makashba? 6 and 5. He said, you heard their taunts. When was the last time you heard their taunts? In the beginning, Yahuwah saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and every intention of the thoughts of his heart was evil continually. He said, I heard everything they was talking about in their mind. And then Yahushua be like, and knowing their thoughts, does this also offend you? You already know that you full of pride and arrogance. And he said you're an oppressor of the poor and the needy. How you say you're an oppressor of the poor? How you say we take gold to somebody's land, and then you use the same gold to take their land and make them sign a treaty to buy the land from other people? It's their stuff. He said you're oppressing the poor. When you take poor people money and you use it for your own personal gain, and then you act like you ain't do nothing wrong. He said, am I my brother's keeper? Where's your brother? And we know that Yahuwah has no respect of persons in judgment, no partiality. He don't care who you are. He said, of his heart, evil continually. He said, evil continually. He don't care how high a person up in the world, how much money you got, or if you just low it and you ain't nobody. He said, behold, they're sitting and they're rising. I am the object of their taunts. That word for taunts is maginah. They're mocking. Or derisive songs. Their music. He said, even in the music, they start mocking me. He said, even in the music, they mock you when they take your stuff. Even in the music, they mock when they're going to destroy you. He said, I heard all their mocking. They mock you all the way in the place where they came from. Talking about what they're going to do to you. They still doing it. He said, I heard your song. I heard your song from 14 years ago. He said, I heard your SOS. You was like, I heard all this stuff. I already know what the people get. He said, I heard all y'all stuff. He said, I heard it. He said, I heard everything. You get what it said right here. This Song of Solomon 12, 1 through 6. Yahuwah saved my soul from the criminal and the wicked man, from the criminal and the slandering tongue that speaks lies and deceit. He said, please save me from these people. The words of the wicked man's tongue are twisted so many ways. They are as a fire among a people that scorches its beauty. He visits homes with a false tongue. That's why he say, turn your phone off. Cut the YouTube off. They start putting that. He said, cut the YouTube, cut the phone off. Cut the TV off. He's like, cut it off. He cuts down trees of joy. That's how he's going to take your fruit. He's trying to cut down your trees of joy. You know, fruit, that's for Yahuwah. He's trying to take your fruit. That's why he trying to bring you to quarreling, fighting, hatred, jealousy, envy, and it. They got super chat with hatred and jealousy, envy. They lie. They try to create a quarrel and a fight with you. They try to get you to compete with them. All that's a part of it. He said, cut these things off. He's like, cut down trees of joy, inflaming criminals by slander. That's all they do. He incites homes to fighting. That's all he want to do. He want to fight because that's all he know how to do. He said, all they do. That's all you know how to do is fight. I'm a tough guy. I said, that's all you know how to do is fight. You ain't got nothing. Versus, you got Ken and Ryu versus Blanco. He said, that's all y'all know how to do. You don't know how to do nothing else but fight. May Elohim remove the lips of the criminals and confusion far from the innocent. Because there are innocent people out here who are people too. They're innocent people. And then you say things out of your mouth that ain't true about somebody else, and then guess what happens? Then the innocent people get infected, and then guess what? Then those people may get bitter, and guess what? They're going to fail to obtain the promise of Yahuwah because they entangled in your rivalries, your hatred, your jealousy, your envy, your podcast, your super chat, your live stream, your Instagram, your Facebook, your Twitter, your life, your understanding, and your false tongue. And many of the bones of the sinners will be scattered far from those who fear Yahuwah. He said, I'm gonna take you so far away from them. Those who fear Yahuwah, Abraham feared Yahuwah. He said, I'm gonna scatter them far from those who fear Yahuwah. May Yahuwah protect the quiet person who hates injustice, who hates partiality and judgment. Yahuwah may guide the person who lives peaceably at home. And may Yahuwah guide the person who lives peaceably at home. May the salvation of Yahuwah be upon Ashr'y, his servant, forever. May the wicked perish once and for all from before Yahuwah. Why do you think Abner, who was Abner from? Abner from Ashr'y. And get what he said? And the servant of David, David, he kept pursuing him. He said, why you keep doing that, man? Please leave me alone. And many Yahuwah's devout will inherit Yahuwah's promise, because he's going to inherit eternal life. Because as I warn you, and I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. And those, he said, if you have a root of bitterness within people, he said, see that no one fails to obtain Yahuwah's promise. But if you continue to do this, it's going to be bitter for all of us. You get what he says? Nobody going to inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. This Job, EU 22, 21-30. Agree with Yahuwah and be at peace with him. Live peacefully with all men, even Yahuwah himself. You got to live peace with Yahuwah and with everybody else. Thereby good will come to you. Then he said, why no good come? Leave people alone. That's how good. People say, what good? How am I get good? Leave people alone. Good will come to you. Receive instruction from his mouth and lay up his words in your heart. If you return to the Shadi, you will be built up. If you remove injustice far from your tent, what do you mean? Impartial judgment, partiality. You like Cain. Cain has injustice in his tent. Yahuwah shows partiality. That's the only reason your offering was accepted, because he partiality. That's what he said. If you lay up gold in the dust, you mean all that gold y'all stole? If you lay up gold in the dust and gold Ophir among the stones in the torrent bed, then the Almighty Shadi will be your gold and your presence. He said, put that junk back where you got it from. He said, then Yahuwah will be your gold and your silver. For then you will delight yourself in the Almighty. Because you how you say, repent and give it back. And lift up your face to Yahuwah. You will make your prayer to him and he will hear you. He said, give it back. You want Yahuwah to hear you? Give our gold back to all those indigenous, give it to the people you stole it from. Give the land back to the people you stole it from. Give the stuff back. And you will pay your vows. You will decide on the matter. Guess what? You won't be able to make proper decisions. You say, why we can't make proper decisions? Why are all these things happening? Why are they doing this and that? Because y'all ain't done the things you need to do. You need to give the stuff back. Then you will decide on a matter, and it will be established for you, and your light will shine on your ways, your good deeds. Kindness. Love your neighbors, you love yourself. For when they are humbled, you say it's because of pride. That's what you say, oh, you see what happened then? Because it was because of pride. You know what happened. Because when you actually willfully do this, people are going to be talking about you. You know, the people that don't want to forgive you, the people that don't, when you repent and give it all back and you apologize, some people ain't going to accept your apology. That's, you know why he did it? Because it's pride. Because he don't want to acknowledge anything. No, it's because you've now went from a prideful, exalted state, then you become Howard thou fallen, oh hallelujah. He said, but he says the lowly, then you become that person in Yeshayahu 14. How are thou fallen? Oh hallelujah. And they're going to be talking about you when you humble yourself. How has the oppressor ceased? Let this taunt be raised for you. How has the oppressor ceased? Exactly. Because that's what's going to happen. But when Nebuchadnezzar did it, in the 7 periods, in the 7 celestial circles, he said, my reason returned to me. and I started to delight myself in Yahuwah. And I paid my vows, because a man vow to Yahuwah, like Yephthah. He said, you must not defraud the pay. You must do everything that proceeds out of your mouth. You got to do it. It says, but he saves the lowly. He delivers even one who is not innocent. Are these people innocent that have done this? But Yahuwah said, he even delivers you. Who are you not even innocent? Yahuwah say, I'll even deliver you. And guess how you're going to be delivered? Who will be delivered through the cleanness of your hands. That's why Pilate say, I wash my hands in innocence. And people say, he even delivers the one who are not innocent. He said, there's a lot of people who are not innocent, but Yahuwah say, I say the lowly. They're going to talk about you, though. They're going to say it's because of pride. But I'll say you, though, if you do it. Because Yahuwah has no respect to persons, no partiality in judgment. You'll never get it. Nah, Yahuwah has no partiality in judgment. If you do what is just and right, and you humble yourself, and you come be lowly, Yahuwah say, all right. They're going to talk about you, say, man, that's pride. You just say, the only reason you humble yourself is because you were prideful. But Yahuwah like, nah. I'm not like human beings. For he said, well, when they are humble, you say because of pride. What for pride is Gua or Geua. It's a pride, lifted up, exalted. Exaltation, arrogance, pride, confidence. So you got a lot of confidence in them weapons and stuff. Yahuwah's like, humble yourself. All right, so this is Ephesians 2:9. 3 more slides. It says, you were dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, following the course of the world, following the prince and power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience, among whom all once lived in the passions of our flesh, carrying out desires of the body and the mind, and were by nature of wrath like the rest of mankind. But Yahuwah, being rich in mercy, he would say, I want to be rich. But he would say, rich in mercy, because of the great love which he has loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Mashiach. By the kind you have been saved, and raised us up with him, and seated us with him in the heavenly places in the Mashiach Yahushua, so that in the coming ages he might show the immeasurable riches of his in kindness toward us in Mashiach Yahushua. For by Khan you have been saved through Amunah. And this is not your own doing. It is the gift of Yahuwah, not as a result of works, so that no one boasts. That's what people do. Look at me, boy. I got this on. I got this garment on. Look how I look. Oh, look at what I did. I'm circumcised. Boy, you see that? Look at me, man. I don't do this. But you do that, though. Ha, 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 ha. You do that, though. Ha, ha. He say, you boasting on your stuff. But look what I did. I obeyed the voice of Yahuwah. Yahuwah like, what you boasting about something that Yahuwah commanded you to do? You did it. You don't need to boast about it. For we are his workmanship, created in Mashiach Yahushua for good works, which Elohim Yahuwah prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. You don't have no need to boast. What you boasting for? You accomplished it. You did it. When you boast, you'll become blind, and you won't see anymore. He said, you become blind. Right, this is skipping down the fourth book of Ashr'y, Supergraphic Volume 1. And he said to me, at the beginning of the circle of the earth, before the portals of the world was in place, and before the assembled winds blew, and before the rumbling thunder sounded, and before the flashes of lightning shone, and before the foundations of paradise were laid, And before the beautiful flowers were seen, and before the powers of the movement were established, and before the innumerable hosts of the Malachim were gathered together, and before the heights of the air were lifted up, and before the measures of the firmaments were maimed, and before the footstool of Saon was established, and before the present years were reckoned, and before the imagination of those who now sin were estranged, and before those who stored up treasures of Amunah were sealed, then I planned these things. He said, so all this happened? He said, Yahuwah planned it all? He said, yeah, I planned all of this. And they were made through me and not through another, just as the end will come through me and not through another. He said, that's the only way you're going to get your attention. Because this life is short. The next life eternal. They say, tomorrow's not promised. Tomorrow is promised. When you die, you go into another life that's eternal. And that tomorrow is promised. He said, I can promise you that. Right? He said, I can promise you that. Right? This is the Nazarene Ashr'y the Shalakim. He suggestion of the old serpent. Above all, you ought to understand the deception of the old serpent and his cunning suggestion to deceive you as it were by prudence, as by sort of reason creeps through your senses and deceiving you a great gain. He said, gain is righteousness. That's what he did when they came. They conquered. They conquered all the land. From Akusan, how you say, to Jerusalem, to South America, to the Inca, to the Maya, to Yucatan, all the way through Turtle Island and Parias, all the way through the northern parts of Quebec, where some of the indigenous people still live, and all the parts of all these other places, Tartaria, Indo-Europe, where they scatter people all throughout the world, through the sub-Saharan. He said, therefore he enunciates in your minds opinions of Elohim, of whatever kinds. Only that sin is your comfort, because sin gonna make you be divided, and Yahuwah scatter you out the four winds. He'll scatter you out of your land. That's why he was putting it in your thought process. For his immorality was condemned from the beginning to eat dust, because he is a serpent. Because he caused Adam to Adam was made from the Adamah, and he caused him to eat from the tree that he should not eat from. And amazingly, didn't that what they did to the people? He said, use your own language as a weapon against you. And then he make you eat from his tree. And guess what happens? For that he caused to be again resolved into dust to him who was taken from the dust, from the Adamah, even till the time when your beings will be restored. Being brought through the fire, as we instruct you at another time. What do you think they were doing? You went through the fire. Why you had to go through all that adversity? Why do you think you had to have everything taken from you? Because you had to be brought through the fire. From him, therefore, proceeds all error and doubt. You had to go through that. How else you going to get it? By which you are driven from Amunah and belief in one Elohim. Why do you think they did that? Drove you from your Amunah, your faith in the Most High Yahuwah. And they made you serve their Elohim. As a matter of fact, they made you serve their God in their days of worship. You left your traditions and you went after them. There are many gods, right? So now you got multiple gods you serve. He said there's only one Elohim, one Yahuwah. He sits above all gods, right? He sits above all. This is Odes of Solomon, Ode Shalom, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 2, 6, 1 through 6. As the wind moves through the heart and the streams speak, so the Ruach of Yahuwah speaks through my members, and I speak through his love. For he destroys whatever is foreign, and everything is of Yahuwah. For thus it has been from the beginning, and will be until the end. So that nothing will be contrary, and nothing will rise against him. He said, man, what you going to rise against him for? He said, nothing will rise up against him. Yahuwah has multiplied his knowledge, his da'ah, and he was zealous that those things should be known, which through his Khan has been given to us. This is the last verse, last thing. 2 Timothy 4:2-4-7. No soldier entangled in civilian pursuits, since his aim is to please the one who enlisted him. Right, so is it a sin to be a soldier? No. An athlete is crowned unless he competes according to the rules. So is it sin to be an athlete? No. It says, it is the hardworking farmer who ought to have the first share of the crop. So is it sin to be a farmer? No. Think over what I say. Why? Because all these professions, soldiers, athletes, and farmers, amazingly, were used in your company. And amazingly, you're an athlete. And amazingly, you still farm. And amazingly, you are soldiers. All these things still exist today. Because each one of these things requires a little bit of discipline. A farmer has to wait, an athlete has to be disciplined, and a soldier has to obey orders. He said, think over what I say, for Yahuwah will give you understanding in everything. He said, you got to think. This ain't no non-thinking walk. People say, I don't want to think. Ooh, I just want somebody to... No, man. He said, man, you got to use your makashaba, your yetzer. You yourself, you. People want everything explained to them. Y'all need to think. This is 1 Corinthians 9:27-24. Or actually, 24-27. Do you not know that in a race, all the runners run? He said, everybody run, but one receives the prize. Unless you run a 4x100. But remember, all four of those people who run a 4x100, they all win the prize. But there's four people running at the same time. They passing the baton. So run that you may obtain it. He said, you got to run. So you got to think. And you got to run. So you got to think and run. So if you can't think and run, this ain't for you. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. So you look at all those athletes and everything you've seen, even with these stadiums and everything that they have, and even the football and how they take it and they put it in their stadiums and everybody knows it. Most people don't know it, but now you do. And then you be an athlete. And you're an athlete in their stadium. And they're collecting billions of dollars and they're oppressing the poor and the needy. He said, but you best not be like that. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. Everybody. So is it a sin to go get a perishable wreath? But we an imperishable. You know, they were getting an imperishable wreath, a perishable wreath, something that will eventually fade away, just like the things you own. But we something imperishable crown. So I do not run aimlessly. He said, I ain't running. You think I'm just out here just running? He said, I ain't running aimlessly. I'm actually putting some time into this. I do not box as one beating the air. He said, I ain't fighting as one just fighting things. I ain't fighting and I ain't just running just to do stuff. I ain't just doing stuff. But I discipline my body to keep it under control. Why? Lest after preaching or teaching to others and proclaiming, I myself should be disqualified. Because Yahuwah has no partiality and no respect of persons in judgment. Absolutely none. He doesn't care how long you've been doing it or who you are. Right? He said, so run. He said, so run. So we look at all that, and there's a lot more. Well, there's a lot more to know. There's a lot more to know in all different regions and all the different places of the world. And empires and the things that have fallen, even the mudslides and all the things, even the things behind that are hidden from the earth, even the center of the earth, and the Rakia, and the beings and the Shabath Shamayim, all the way to the highest Shamayim. But we look at all the things that happen on the earth on a carnal level in one place. But we look at this one place being an effect to all the rest of the world. Knowing that these things are true, and one needs to walk in truth, and believe the truth, and know the truth, but then also to walk in wisdom in a world as ruthless and evil as this. Knowing that we live in this world, we are not of it, but at the same time, as using the world and not abusing it. Knowing that we live in a world that's, how you say, been put over the eyes, the blind one from the Amath, the truth of Yahushua Mashiach. Knowing that Yahushua said, the son of Adam be lifted up, the one made from the Adama, from the red people. He said the red clay, the red soil. He said, I'm going to draw all people to myself. And when they pierced him in his side, out came blood and water. Knowing that when that blood and water hit the ground, even as he told Mashar, he said, if they don't believe these last two signs, he said, let some of the actual water hit the ground on the red soil, on the soil. Knowing that these things are a prelude to the understanding of Yahushua Mashiach, how he came, died, and rose, ascended for the 12 tribes of Ashr'y, and all those who join themselves to them in obedience of Amunah, in righteousness and love, and compassion, and loving your neighbor as you love yourself. For there are many things that have happened in the past that many have done, and that can provoke one to be out of character and be angry and full of anger and wrath within oneself. But if one keeps the anger and wrath, how will one be able to attain and live in peace with all men? How will one be able to attain? So you look at the root of your life, you look at the roots of your problem, and you look at casting away the old, and you may put on the new. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.